Hey guys, I really want to thank Nicole for being here with me. We've been hanging out this weekend up in the studio. You may have noticed some minor renovations to the YouTube studio. Those will be being removed as soon as Nicole leaves. But for now, they are a remnant of what is happening right now. So what we wanted to talk to you guys about, actually, Nicole, you say what we want to talk about.
Goal setting.
Goal setting.
Goal setting for your FBA business.
For your
because
FBA.
it's super important to know where you're going and where you want to be.
Yeah, so when you got into doing FBA, what was your goal?
To quit my full-time job and do this full-time. I wanted to work for myself and yeah.
Did you have a financial goal? Like, what did you think, like, what would be the amount you would need?
Need or want?
Okay, need.
Need, I would say I would like, so my bottom end would be like $45,000 a year net profit.
Okay.
Would be the very bottom end.
Which I think one of the things that I see people, they get into FBA and they fall into a couple different categories. I have clients that they have like a goal like, I just want to pay my mortgage. Mm-hmm. And that's a very easy, obtainable goal. Yep. I mean, usually, unless they have a crazy mortgage.
Right.
But, you know, because, oh, my mortgage is $900 a month. Very reasonable amount of profit. Or I even have some people that's just like, I want to take my family to Disney World twice a year. That probably $9,000 a month. You know, I don't know how much Disney World is. But, yeah, so anything like that, that's a very reasonable goal. But if your goal is to replace a job, that's something that I don't think a lot of people talk about because it is way harder to do this as a full-time job. As somebody that does it as a full-time job, I'm saying this because, you know, there are months that are great. You know, Q4, we're coming into Q4. Did you know I have a Q4 group?
Yes.
Okay, so if you want to check it out, there's a 20% off coupon below in this video. But anyway, coming into Q4, months are going to be crazy. But then, you know, knock on wood, you get suspended or, you know, something terrible happens. And, I mean, you know, that can happen with a job. You can show up to a job and get fired. It's happened to all of us. Laid off. Mm-hmm. Business goes out of business. Yep. There's a lot of horrible things. So, okay, it goes out of business. Well, I was fired. I've been fired. Yeah, I've been fired a lot, thinking about it. I was fired one time from a job, and then just kept coming to the job for like another 2 years.
Can I say I'm not surprised?
Yeah, well, I didn't want to have to get a new job. I think the boss was just mad at me. So the thing is that, you know, yeah, like stuff like account suspension, that's a real thing. So you always have to make sure that you're drawing in more money than, you know, just, you want to make sure you have some savings. I mean, what's St. Dave Ramsey say? It's like 6 months in savings or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable, that's about what I have. If I went out of business tomorrow, I have about 6 months worth of expenses. A little bit more than that if you look at like my retirement and anything. I think that that's very, very important. But also the other thing is that if your business is profiting, let's say $5,000 a month, you can't give yourself a draw of $5,000 a month.
No.
Your business will stop functioning because your business always needs more money coming into it than just the profit. So, or just the cost of goods compensation, I should say. Mm-hmm. So let's say you're selling $15,000 a month, your cost of goods is $5,000, your profit is $5,000, your fees are $5,000. You can't pay yourself $5,000. Doesn't work like that. Your business will actually very quickly deteriorate. So let's talk, like we kind of introed here.
Yep.
Let's talk about setting from the beginning realistic and useful goals. Mm-hmm. This is something I see all the time. People are like, okay, I'm going to try out Amazon, but can I sell $1 million in my first year? I mean, yeah, you can. It's going to be rough. I think that it's important to understand that when you set a gross profit goal, that's not a good goal, okay? So you can't, what did I say? You can't pay your mortgage with gross profit.
Right.
Or gross sales, okay? Back in my Etsy days, you know, I'd see people, they would talk like, oh, I want to get 1,000 hearts this month. Well, I can't pay my mortgage with hearts. I've tried, okay? We're talking about MLM, okay? If you do MLM, I want to have 100 people in my downline. Well, you can have one person in your downline that makes you a fortune, or 100 people that are shitty sellers, and yeah, I'd just rather have a good one person than, anything. So it's important. What have you seen, like, people set realistic goals? Like you've set pretty realistic goals with everything.
I have set realistic goals, and you know that I had a hang up, back in June, but my goal has always been to basically replace my income for my job.
Yeah.
Earlier in the year, I left my longtime career in HR to pursue a work from home gig that has worked out really well.
And you've been really happy with it.
Yeah, I've been really happy with it. But still looking to just replace that 9-to-5 grind with something a little more flexible for me. So
Definitely. And that's a pretty reasonable goal. So let's talk about growth here, because I think that this is something. So one of the things to keep in mind when you start this business, when you start any business, we're not even talking about FBA at this point, your expenses are going to be much lower than somebody who's doing a much larger business. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, Nicole, do you have a warehouse?
I do not.
Do you have workers and employees you have to pay?
I do have one employee that I pay.
Okay, but can we tell the truth about that employee?
It is my 15-year-old daughter, and I pay her $10 an hour to prep.
Yeah, I wish I could pay somebody $10 an hour to prep. So I have a lot more expensive. I'm a larger seller. I have a lot more expenses. Mm-hmm. There is a diminishing return for me. So, I have to have a certain amount that I profit every month that right off the top goes right to somebody else, okay, or other people, okay? So that's very important, and I think that's one thing that people don't realize, that as a smaller seller is actually a massive advantage. Mm-hmm. Because if you have a bad sales month, you can just tell your daughter, you know what, I don't need you to prep this month.
Right.
Whereas I have full-time employees, where if I have a bad sales month, I kind of still got to pay them. They're not salary, but like, if I too many times I'm like, hey, no need to come in today, they're going to find another way to make money, and that's legit. Like, that's their prerogative, and they should do that. So I'm not blaming them. But one of the things that, you have to realize, like, there's options, like, with repricers. So there's, like, GoAura, which is, what, $50 a month?
No, 87.
Oh, 87 a month. I use SellerSnap. It's $500 a month. And it's like, as your business grows, as your demands grow, you must build. You know what I mean? You must build certain things where a smaller seller wouldn't have to deal with those things. Another thing is, with growing your business, how long were you doing your business before you took a draw?
I have not yet taken a draw. This week is my 1 year of doing FBA, and I have not yet taken a draw.
Congrats on 1 year.
Business. Thank you.
Oh, well, let's do that again. We'll do the squid.
Sorry, guys. I don't know.
You want to do another one?
No.
Okay. So, anyway, and you've not really taken a draw. You haven't taken any money out?
No, just covering expenses and folding everything back in.
But see, okay, so, and this is the thing. You're doing this so smart, and you're paying taxes, all that shit, right? You know Willie Nelson, right?
Not yet.
You know Wesley Snipes. But one of the things that I think, you and I were just talking about as a beginner, I came down to your place in May, right? Or was it June? June. And we went out sourcing. How much did we spend on that trip?
$4,200.
And how long did it take for that inventory to go live after you shipped it?
8.5 weeks.
And this is something that people need to understand, is that if you do not have a large budget, she sunk so much of her money into a few shipments, and they just sat there for 8 weeks. Now, of course, when they started selling, they've been selling like crazy. It's been great. But this is something that as a larger seller, if I had $4,500 or $4,200 sit for 8 weeks, really wouldn't affect me that much, because I have enough capital that I would just be like, well, it'll go live eventually. Right. And that's not something that beginners have. So I see people and they're like, well, I have $5,000, I'm going to put it all into a shipment, which is, can work out. But I mean, just, this is a criticism of Amazon. I'm not even saying this like as a criticism of anybody other than Amazon doing that. And that's all about it sitting in a warehouse, which is bizarre to me, because I have shit sitting at AVP that has been there for a few weeks now, And I'm sending stuff in. We sent in a shipment last week. It's already all received and for sale. It's like, have you people never heard of stock rotation? Okay, but and that's been very challenging. And I see a lot of beginners where they have this limited funds, and and that's not. We'll have to talk another time about how long they hold your first payout.
Yeah.
I mean, if that was your first payout, it could have been half a year almost.
Yeah.
I mean, 8 weeks plus another 6 weeks, plus the time for it to sell. You could really be looking at 16 weeks easily.
Yep.
4 months, guys. A third of a year before you get paid. That's insane. I just want to say that, like, people getting into Amazon, I'm not trying to tell you not to do it, but it was not like that when I got started. Like, check-in times were much better. That's, like, really something that bothers me about Amazon. But, so in your growth stages we were talking about, big part of that is not going to be taking a draw for a while.
Right.
You're going to have to put your money back in, especially if you have a low amount to start. If you have $5,000 to start or a couple $1,000s to start, you will not be able to take a draw for a while.
Right.
But the other thing to focus on is good selling inventory. And this is something that confounds people because, so one of the things I hear all the time is, well, Walmart's margin is 2%. Yes, great. It is. How many stores does Walmart have? I mean, I don't even know. Maybe I should have done a minimal amount of research. How many stores does Walmart have? Alexa, how many stores does Walmart have?
She doesn't feel like talking today.
11,718 stores. So they're selling a little bit more than you, beginner FBA seller. I hate to break it to you. So when they're saying, oh, their margin is 2%, yeah, their sales in a year are like billions of dollars. 2% of $1 billion is like $2 million. Wait, no, $20 million in profit. I mean, they're making hundreds of millions of dollars in profit because they're selling billions of dollars.
Right.
Same with Amazon. So when you look at somebody that's a larger seller and they're like, oh, my ROI that I look for is 25%. That might be great if you're doing $1 million. Okay, if you're doing $1 million in sales, 25% ROI is $250,000. Okay, if that's your profit, that's a reasonable profit on $1 million in sales. If you're selling $1,000 a month, your 25% is $250. That's a very slow grow. And that's something that people don't realize. The higher your ROI on your inventory and the higher your margin is, the faster your business will sell or will grow. Okay, your business will grow twice as fast if you accept a margin of 20 versus 10 or an ROI of 50 versus 25. That one thing right there is the best way to grow, is one of the best ways to grow. And people are going in and they're not looking at it that way. And I see so many people just selling garbage, and I'm like, if you would have held out to find better inventory, you would be having a better time. I mean, I was out with Nicole, I bought 300 and change units of something for $2.99, and the payout on it's $5 or $8.
Right.
Okay, so I'm making a $5 profit on it. Had I spent all of my sourcing budget earlier in the day on worse stuff, like literally we were at that one store and I'm like, no, there's another store I know we can get that cheaper at.
Right.
Too many people just want to spend the money and they don't buy good inventory. Okay, is there anything you want to add to that with growth? Like, what's something that you think you've done with growth that has helped you? Besides, of course, asking me for help all the time. She never asked me for help.
No, but he's very quick to offer it.
She is a strong, smart, independent woman, and she ain't need no man.
Let's see. As far as growth is concerned, I think recognizing that you need to step out of the box a little bit and maybe change your business model as you grow, and recognize that maybe some of the systems that you have used in the beginning are not working as well as they should. One of the things that when my inventory was hung up for 8 weeks, I had to quickly convert to FBM so that I could build my capital again. And I literally had to start all over. I am still struggling because even though it is September, I've had a couple payouts since then. And I've literally just been flipping merchant fulfilled stuff. So,
but that's been good for you.
Yeah, it has been good. But it's been a slow process. And I think that unless you are planning for, I don't want to say planning for failure, but planning for, you know, an alternate situation, something out of the norm, then you're going to kind of get caught with your pants down. Because you're just not prepared for it.
I mean, Amazon all the time even does stuff like maybe change the fee structure on a category or something as simple as that. And you could go from making a crap load of money selling X to be like, I don't know, I need something new.
Right.
Or a market gets saturated or restricted. There's so many things out there.
Yeah.
So if you, let's say your goal, so let's begin with, if you go into Amazon and you're like, my goal is to have gross sales of $1 million a year. Stop. Not a good goal. Your goal should be based on gross or net profit. Okay, so net profit would be, I sell $1 million, my fees are X, X, and X. I'm left paying myself $100,000 a year. Okay, that's a reasonable goal. You can obtain that goal, you can quantify that goal, great goal. One of the things to keep in mind is that when you start your business, let's say you're starting with $1,000, and let's ignore check-in times and everything. You're spending your grand, you have a 50% ROI. You're going to turn that $1,000 into $1,500. I did the math on that right.
Good job.
Okay. Then you're going to turn that money into $2,250. Okay? I did good. Then, like, $3,300. Okay, so each time you grow, it will grow a little bit. But the thing that's important is if you look at somebody that's selling, let's say, gross $1 million a year. So let's call that $100,000 a month, which is typically what my goal is. In order to obtain that goal, you need to look not at the sales, but at the money that you're spending. Because in order to maintain $100,000 in sales a month, you need to spend like $1,000 a day, like at least. And that is like today. So on Saturday I spent $2,200. Sunday I spent a little. I think it was like $1,200 on a sale. Then today I spent another $6 and then another $7. Okay, so like I've been hitting this because I do want to get my sales up. My sales kind of fell a little bit because I was doing work for my Q4 group, so like I kind of slacked a little bit, and now I'm trying to like build up my inventory quickly. And that's what's so important. You have to understand that if your goal is to do, the $1 million a year, you need to spend probably at least $350 to probably closer to $450,000 a year. So you need to have one hell of a plan. That is a lot of money. Okay, like that is a shitload of money, guys.
Cash in your husband's life insurance policy.
Cash in, or just kill him.
Yeah.
He's asking for a Baskins.
Yeah.
Okay, asking for a Baskins.
Sardine oil's cheap.
Sardine oil is cheap. Arsenic is even cheaper.
There you go.
Okay, so the thing that you have to understand is like when you look at big sellers, you have to understand that they are outputting massive amounts of money. And that's what people don't understand, is that it is a lot of work to do $200, even or $100,000 in a month. It's a lot of work. And I mean, there's definitely people that do it and do it solo, do it full time, and do it. I know people that do it that way. I know people that do it with 1 or 2 employees helping them, or a bratty 15-year-old. Okay, but you need to set these goals. Now, I'm using $100,000 as an example, but let's say your goal is, back to Nicole's point, $15,000 a month.
Yeah.
Did we say that? See, we already talked about this video. Did we say that on the video that your goal is right around 15 a month?
15 net is what we talked about, I think, right?
15,000 net? What are you buying, a Ferrari?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
No, not 15,000.
Will you buy 15,000 a month? Will you be my sugar mama?
Maybe. We'll
Okay.
have to talk about that later.
Okay, I might have to cut my hair and lose some weight if I'm going to be her sugar baby. But that being said, okay, so let's say your goal is $15,000 a month in sales.
Yes.
And you want to be able to pay yourself about $2,000 a month.
Yeah,
which
sounds
would be
right.
a very reasonable goal. You need to spend $5,000 a month or so in inventory. That's about $200 a day.
Right.
Give or take.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, you don't have to do that daily, okay? If you go into a store and you spend, so $5,000, that would be So $5,000 a month, that would be about 12 a week.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to go into a store and it was just a great store and you spent $1,000 that day, you don't need to go and bust your ass the next day. You know, there's plenty of people that like, you know, shop on the weekends and they really blow out inventory, you know, on the weekends because they work a 9 to 5, then they spend a couple hours a night prepping it all. That's a great way to go. So let's give some tips here because that's what I like to do. So you want to set your goal, your gross profit goal, and realize that if you're using a 100% ROI, you need to spend that much every month. So if your goal is, I want to profit $5,000 in my business, you need to spend $5,000, assuming a 100% ROI. If you're doing a 50% ROI, you have to spend double. I don't think people realize that. If you're doing a 33% ROI, you have to spend triple. So you would have to spend $15,000 at a 30% ROI to profit $5,000. That's a lot of money, guys, to make, you know, $5,000. I mean, that's a lot of legwork. That's $500 a day.
Yeah.
Okay? You drop that down to a quarter, 25% ROI, you guys spend $20,000 a month. Now, I'm over here always shooting for 100% ROI, and I spend about $30,000 to $40,000 a month on inventory, and I'm making more money than you. It's not because I'm better, it's because I'm looking for something different than you're looking at. And that's the thing. I just want to say this. There's an old Yiddish term that I believe is completely made up and not real, which is, to the worm in horseradish, the world is horseradish.
Okay.
So the thing is that when I talk to people and I'm like, and I tell people, you know what, go to Walmart, just look for 100% ROI. Do you know what they find? 100% ROI.
Right.
You go to Walmart, you're looking for 50% ROI. Can you guess what you're going to find?
50% ROI.
Holy shit, how'd you know that? And I mean, we were at that store, and I was passing up profitable stuff because it just didn't fit what I wanted.
Right.
And you know, I wanted to spend. I had a certain amount of money I wanted to spend on Saturday. I knew what we were going to spend, and I was picking very carefully. And actually, a lot of stuff was way over my goal. That soap was over my goal.
Yeah.
You know, the coffee bags that I bought, that was, I think, a little bit better than 100%. It was like 125. Okay, and of course, price is going to tank on stuff. If I send something at 125, it's very reasonable I'll hit 100.
Right.
So that's the other thing, you know, when people are like, oh, well, I'm looking for a 50% ROI, well, with price tanks, plus, of course, the cost of prep, you know, keep in mind, I have to pay somebody to prep that. I have to put it in a poly bag. Do you know where I get all my poly bags from?
ilovesupplies.com.
You don't say. So I have the cost of prep, the cost of, you know, all the things, the cost of shipping, the cost of boxes, the cost of the fact that probably some of those got damaged in my truck, the cost of, you know, taxes, the cost of having inventory lab. You know, that's $50 a month, I think, right? $50 a month. Yeah, so $50 a month. Well, if I'm selling $1,000 a month, $50 a month is 2% of my whole monthly sales. Right. That's a huge expense. Okay, whereas if you're doing 100,000, it's like 0.002%. You're doing $1 million. You know what I mean? So that's something to keep in mind, and I don't think people really consider that. Like, you know, too many people go out and they buy all the bells and whistles. They're like, I have $500 to get into FBA. Let me go out and buy helium-10. It's like $300, dude.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing helium-10 or anything, but if you have such a small budget, you need to make some budgeting concerns.
Yeah.
So what would be a couple tips that you might have for somebody just getting started out with how to grow?
So one of the biggest things that was kind of a turning point for me was that, you know, he's talking about 100% ROI, 50% ROI. But if that ROI at 100% is only $1 or $2, you're going to nickel and dime your sourcing budget to death.
Absolutely.
So making sure that you are spending your sourcing budget on higher end product. I don't want to say higher end, but product that is going to profit you. My goal is at least $3 to $4 depending on my buy cost after net. And
that's so powerful. That is just so powerful.
It is, because, you know, you find something for 50 cents and, you know, you profit 100, that's great, but
it's still 50 cents.
It's still 50 cents.
Plus, the other thing is then you're lulling yourself. This is what I was saying, where gross sales are really meaningless.
Right.
Because if you're buying something for 50 cents, profiting 50 cents, great. But really, it looks like you just sold a $6 item, which you did. But that $6 means literally nothing.
Right.
Literally could not mean less.
Yep.
And I told you about that. That was like the turning point. I was stuck at like $30,000 a month in sales. Couldn't get past that. And somebody said, well, what about if you just focus on $5 profit every sale?
Yep.
And that was a huge turning point for my business.
Yep.
And that's something, I've talked about that in previous videos. Thank you for watching my YouTube channel. Nicole, do you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel?
I do.
You know what? You guys probably should also.
Superhero sellers.
Yes, my YouTube channel. So, is there anything else? Because that is really something that I tell all the time, and I think people either don't hear it or ignore it or don't think of it that way.
Yeah. I would also say that keeping in mind the amount and type of prep that your items are going to require, for a low net profit item, you don't want to have to bubble wrap, poly bag, and box something. That's going to kill your budget, kill your time. It's not worth it. And so keeping in mind that, if you are at a point where you can buy a few hundred of something for a couple of dollars and it's going to net you, I don't know, $2 to $3, if all you have to do is slap a label on that and throw it in a box, that's great. But if you have to poly bag and then label, bubble wrap, box something up, you're really just, it seems kind of redundant at that point. It doesn't seem, and it's not worth the time.
No, yeah, that's a really great point. Plus, another thing to keep in mind is how big an item is.
Yes.
So you can only send a box that's 25 inches in any one side unless you have an oversized item. Okay, then it's as big as the item. Okay, so if you have normal sized items, 25 inches, 50 pounds. Really 48, but we'll say 50. So the thing is like if you have a product that's 8 pounds, okay, so if I spend $9 to ship that 50-pound box, let's call it 10 so the math is easy on me. I have a product that's 8 pounds, I can fit 6 of them would be 48. Okay, that means I need to add an extra $1, actually more than that, like $1.50 onto my cost of goods, because that's my cost to get it to Amazon. So it's very important you take that into account.
Right.
In fact, it would be $1.60 would be what I would have to add. Well, that's a massive thing. Now, if you're making $10 on it, what's $1.60?
Right.
But if you're making $2.50 on that 8-pound item, well, $1.60 is most of your profit. And I think a lot of people don't realize that.
Agree.
Okay. Now, of course, doing LTL, that definitely is helpful, but you're a beginner seller, you probably don't have a loading dock. Not bragging, but I have a loading dock.
You're definitely bragging.
It's a nice loading dock. It's got a hydraulic dock leveler.
It's not that great.
Wow.
Another thing that I would throw in there for newer sellers, and this is something that you really need to dig into Seller Central help on and really learn the requirements, are small and light. Okay. Small and Light is an excellent program, but there are very strict requirements, and you need to make sure that you stay on top of it, because Amazon doesn't care whether or not they're charging you an extra couple of dollars in fees. So you guys can do your own research on that. So
let me clarify something with Small and Light, because this is the most common question I get. Sorry about that, guys. We had to restart the camera. So one of the things that people don't realize is that you in fact can sell the same product multiple times, but you have to be in a different type of selling. So for instance, I can FBA and merchant fulfill an item. I can FBA, merchant fulfill, and Small and Light an item. I can FBA, merchant fulfill, seller fulfill prime, and Small and Light an item. Okay? I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but if you want to have a product that you're selling FBA, regular FBA, it is entirely possible to convert it to Small and Light. Now, the way that I always organize this is I do my FBA products, I end my MSCU with FBA. If I know that I'm going to do it in multiple, what's that called? Like multiple selling states or something like that. I don't know what that's technically called. But I end the MSCU with SNL, Small and Light.
Saturday Night Live.
Saturday Night Live. So for Small and Light, I do SNL. For Merchant Fulfill, I end it with MF. For small or seller fulfilled prime, I do SFP, okay, etc. So I can be on the listing multiple times, and I do this very frequently. So don't worry about that, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, I don't want to just do it at small and light.
Right.
Well, then don't.
Right.
Okay, do it. However, but look up in Seller Central. We say this all the time.
We do.
Look in Seller Central.
The
info is there.
Yeah.
It's not confusing. Yeah, you gotta put 24 at least of an item in a clear garbage bag. Boom.
I didn't do the garbage bag.
I don't either.
All right. So another thing to add to that is that this is a good way, if you have a fast-moving item, this is a good way to kind of get around. Not really get around, because you're not doing anything wrong. The quantity limits on an item that you are sending in. So absolutely factor in your net profit in the regular FBA listing, because your fees are going to be higher and your profit is going to be less. But as soon as you sell down some of that small and light inventory, you can convert your FBA inventory into small and light, and it will transition over for you.
Correct.
You just have to stay under your quantity limit.
And for the fees, you can use. I just use RevSeller to calculate my fees.
Yes.
I recommend that. I don't know if other softwares can do it, but RevSeller does it very easily.
RevSeller is fantastic, and it does give you an option to check a little box as to whether or not something is eligible for small and light.
So that box only shows up when it is eligible.
Right.
So if you scan something that you're like, oh, I believe that this will meet the dimensional requirements of small and light, then change the sale cost to $7. Now, I'm saying $7 because right now that's the max for small and light,
Right.
and it's changed. It started at 15, then 10, now it's 7. So if you watch this in the future, hi from the past, hey guys, okay.
It's always going to be the past, because we're going to distribute this in the future.
Wow. You just blew my mind. We'll edit in that. Okay, so the thing is that no matter what it is, it'll work that way in RevSeller. It's worked that way for years. So you have to change it to what the current price is. Then it will give you the option to click for small and light. Then it adjusts the fulfillment fees for you accordingly.
Right.
And small and light, you make a lot of money with, guys.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think, and here's the thing: all of the tips that we just gave today, how much would they cost you to implement?
$0.
$0. And really not very much time. It's not like, oh, save a whole bunch of money by hours of time.
Changing to Geico.
No. These are all very easy things. And that's the thing that big sellers do, that smaller sellers don't.
Right.
They adapt.
Right.
Okay?
And I would recommend, as a newer seller or somebody who is still kind of not extremely experienced in the world of selling through FBA, make a list of all of the things that you need to check before you create a listing, or your, like we said, the seller fulfilled prime. Does this qualify for seller fulfilled prime? Does this qualify for small and light? Make sure you're checking all those boxes before you write something off. So
Yeah, there's plenty of products that I have scanned where they were not profitable FBA, but would have been profitable small and light.
Right.
Okay.
You can actually reduce the sale price.
Yeah.
And then
increase
make
your
more
profit.
money. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you telling me that you have undercut people to do that?
Absolutely.
How selfish of you. She's here to make money, guys, not
That's
to
right.
make friends.
The cold hard facts.
Wait, did you come to visit me just to make money?
Maybe.
Shit. Guys, if I end up with eaten by a tiger, which I guess would be Snowball, my cat,
Yes.
covered in sardine oil, main suspect right here, guys. Right here. She did it.
I will neither confirm nor deny.
Okay, well, was there anything else you wanted to leave on?
I don't think so.
Yeah, we didn't do a script on this. This was just us talking.
Yeah.
Nicole, thank you so much for coming and visiting me. Thank you for bringing, I would say
Live, laugh, love.
I would say a feminine touch, but
Facetious.
yes. Thank you for making the YouTube studio something. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been really great. Thank you so much for coming down, Nicole,
You're
or coming up, Nicole. Thanks for doing this video with me. We had a lot of fun shopping this weekend, and yeah, thanks guys for watching. Have a good night.